I'm delighted to be here today with you as we celebrate the 52nd Foundation Day of HUDCO. Occasions like this provide an opportunity, and perhaps rightly so, for a certain amount of self-congratulation, and I've heard a lot of that this morning. But I think it should also provide an opportunity for us to reflect back on the last half a century or so and try and think about what we want in the next 50 years. On this day in 1970, the establishment of HUDCO signified the foundation of formal housing finance system in India. HUDCO's mission, when it was conceived, was to provide technical and financial support for housing and urban infrastructure, especially for the poor and vulnerable sections of the society. It is a noble objective and aligned with the core development requirements of the country. But after 1970, I think the urban landscape underwent a fundamental shift in 2014, when the Prime Minister's clarion call for Har Haath Ko Kaam, Har Gareeb Ko Makaan, and the guiding philosophy Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas. And I think the rest is history. We often, and I've been a civil servant for 39 years, hide behind those positions which say that we can't do anything, or rather lead to conclusions saying it is not doable. Let me give you an example. Land is a state subject. So we could very easily turn around and say that these 9 additional chief secretaries who have joined us today, developing awas for the poorer sections of society should be left to the state government. But that's not the approach that the Honorable Prime Minister advanced. So land is a state subject, but we live in a cooperative federal structure. It is possible for the centre to conceptualize and produce a scheme which will involve the centre giving some incentive, and the states then implement the scheme along with the centre. Now, a target of 1 crore had been set for the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana when it was announced in June 2015. And the Prime Minister had stated on that occasion that it was his dream that every Indian, no matter where he or she lived, should have a pakka home on a pakka roof on their heads, with a proper shauchalaya, kitchen, gas connection, and that the title of their home should be in the name of the lady of the house. Now that initial target based on a demand assessment of 1 crore was subsequently revised. It became 1 crore 12 lakhs. Later I saw a figure of 1 crore 15 lakhs. And Secretary is here because he heads the committee for the monitoring and sanctioning of projects, CMSP or CSMP. You've done what, 122? Yeah, my figures are already saying 122. Every day I speak, the figure goes up. And the problem is not that. Other people come and say, we want more houses. No, my standard question to them should be, why didn't you make the demand assessment? But demands also rise. But the good news is this scheme has been completed. By 31st March, we would have sanctioned 1 crore 19 or 1 crore 22 lakhs, depending on, I think, some of this involves a little bit of reconciliation of figures, because some states get the sanction and then come back and say they want more, others say slightly less. But it's going to be in the range of 1 crore 20 lakhs. In this process, HUDCO has been not only a partner of the ministry, but it has been providing help. HUDCO's own finances, from what I can make out, appear good. But and I have to be cynical. If you are lending to the government, you're not taking much of a risk. And if you are aligned with, schemes which have low risk in them, then you're okay. But I must say, I did not discuss with my secretary, but when he finished speaking, when the secretary finished speaking, I told him, you know, you have said some of the things I wanted to say. And let me simplify it. 50 years is an impressive number of years, but when institutions are built, they are built step by step with the hard work and genius of a lot of people who've contributed to it. But institutions are also like a bicycle. Either it is growing, or if it stands still, you have an equilibrium problem. And I am convinced that whilst we celebrate the fact that 19 million residential units have been constructed across the country with assistance from HUDCO in the last 52 years, 1,800 towns and cities have availed of HUDCO support, 92% of the dwelling units HUDCO has facilitated in building have directly benefited low-income group, that's good. But I want to change the perspective a little. And I think one of the previous speakers, Secretary perhaps mentioned it, Rizvi ji also. When the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana started in 2015, it was conceptualized in 2014, it started in 2015, we were not thinking of a $5 trillion economy. Today, we are already a $3 trillion economy plus. We will be a $5 trillion economy in the next 2 years and a $10 trillion economy in 5 trillion to 24, 25, I'm sure at the rate at which we are growing, and a $10 trillion economy in 2030 or thereabouts. Now, when you have the $10 trillion economy, you have one or two other economies which are bigger, like the United States and China, right? They would be even bigger by that time. US is a $20 trillion economy, China is a $12 trillion economy, they would have grown. But as $20 trillion economy, please reflect back on what it means for the urban sector. I can give you some statistics. In the 10 years of the previous UPA government between 2004 and 14, the total spend on the urban sector, which means on all the schemes that the UPA had put together, was something like 1,57,000 crores. Our schemes, Modi ji's government schemes, started in June 2015, so it's actually 7 years. In 7 years, our expenditure cumulatively on the urban space has been more than 7 times. It's over 11 lakh crores now. Just imagine what will happen in the urban space by when you're a $5 trillion economy or a $10 trillion economy. I mean, you can argue, perhaps unwittingly, that your ghar ban gaya. No, there will be building, there will be rebuilding, there will be other things. I think an institution like HUDCO, with some serious introspection by the ministry and other allied agencies, needs to start looking at what the HUDCO's mission, and I think in this the independent directors should also contribute. What is it that HUDCO can do? Let's say in the coming years, some suggestions came that I think Manoj, you mentioned that you should have a technology arm. You mentioned the lighthouse projects. But I can think of so many other issues. There is an entire ecosystem industry out there. And I used to cite a statistic which I have not done for a long time. I can say again today, and I'm reinforced by a visit I undertook yesterday to Bombay High. You know, we have used in one particular facility 47,000 metric tons of steel, which amounts to building 5 Eiffel Towers. And I've put that out in the social media also. And I keep saying that the rate at which we are going between now and 2030, we will be building a Chicago every year.